Hi.
Oh, hello.
Hi. How are you doing?
All right, how are you? I love you
I'm
doing
pretty
it.
great. Thank you. Yeah, I thought it was a phase and now she's a permanent character. She's here to stay.
Good. Hey, boys, she's here. Oh.
Hey, boy. Yeah, don't fuck with me, fellas.
I only
Great.
I sprayed my hair once dark for a show, and I was like, I don't think I can pull that off. I'm way too pale. I look like Wednesday Adams in drag, so I
That's my type. Stop flirting.
don't. Stop it.
Wednesday Adams and drag.
Isn't
Oh
that why we're
God.
here?
Isn't that why we're here? Speed dating.
Yeah.
Where are you right now?
I'm in the flat conservative state of Ohio.
Whoa, not what I expected you to say.
No, right in the middle of. I always joke that we moved here in the middle of the pandemic for my husband's job. We live in a very gay city, so it's lovely. But when we moved in the middle of 2020 and we wanted to adopt a puppy, so we found a farm and we left the city limits, and it was like horrible election billboard, anti-abortion billboard. I was like, there's no dog. They're just luring gay guys out to kill us. That's what's happening. So Ohio.
You,
Long story
yeah,
short,
you
Ohio.
said long story short, Ohio. You really
Ohio.
said Stepford, House of Wax, Ohio.
Yes.
Um, I love that. I've been to Ohio only one time, I think, on a show choir travel trip when I was like 16 or something,
Yeah.
for like a competition.
Okay. And
Not the same as your experience, but had really, really good food. And I don't remember if we won or not. That's all I know about Ohio.
that's a
But
good
yeah.
fuzzy experience. I wish I had the same. So this show, for someone like me who, I mean, I was an obsessive theater kid, this is like a dream come true. Um, I think season two I like even more just because I like this era of musicals. I feel like I was just like yelling titles. I was like, Sweet Charity, blah. I don't know, just shit out of the screen. Um, I read an interview that you did where you said playing Jenny, you had the time of your life, just because you liked playing a character that I want to say she had more at stake. I can't remember what the actual quote was, but I guess when you found out you were coming back for season two, is that something that you uh vocalize about wanting to do, or is it just something that they're like, hey, you're gonna play a character that's completely different than season one?
I think Cinco always had it in his head that it was going to be an anthology.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do remember. Aaron doesn't remember this, but I remember this. There was a moment where there was talk about me sort of playing the Roxy Hart character and then
Mm-hmm.
having Ariana be like a Velma Kelly, and we were going to do. Cinco essentially told me in season one, he was like, "Get ready to tap dance," and I was like, "I'd rather die." Um, not because I don't want to learn how to do tap, but just because I know I would be miserable at it. Um, but I think I don't know. Cinco is one of those brilliant creators where he really does see a performer for who they are, and then
Mm-hmm.
he can synthesize that and create something tailor made for you. And so I feel like season two is just so much more illustrious because everybody was kind
Mm-hmm.
of in their like glorious niche thing. And so the funny transformation between like a Roxy Hart to essentially like a Velma or obviously a Sally Bowles, was really a great gift that he gave me because it felt so loving that he would give me someone more suited for me rather than just someone who people had previously seen me as.
Yeah.
And I was definitely excited to take on more of a character arc than poor Betsy ever had.
Poor Betsy. Um, something about the when you burst in that first episode, I wanted to ask about I'm a voice and speech nut. I love what people can do with like rhythm and tone and stuff like that. And I love the rhythm that you give to that first interaction with Cecily and Keegan's characters. And I was curious if you could tell me, um, in terms of like rhythm of her speaking voice, what was on your mind there? Just because I really kind of like my ears perked up when I saw you.
Thank you. I think I've always really had a lot of emphasis myself on what a character's voice sounds like. Like I really like to try to kind of transform a voice. I don't know if that started back when I was doing the whole twin thing and I was trying to differentiate the two, just like really trying to give like an individuality to each character's mode of expression. I also knew that like, you know, there was going to be quite a lot of cabaret elements and I the Liza's interpretation of Sally Bowles is so iconic that I didn't want to try to emulate it, especially because our world is so specific and the tone is so humorous. Like you could never get close to scratching the surface of the tragedy of the reality of that character. And so I just wanted to find as many sort of recognizable isms for fans. And though it is different than Liza's patter, I wanted it to have that same kind of like mid-Atlantic 20s to 40s, like almost like a you got a face for the radio, kid, like that really like kind of manic mania thing. That was just important. And it came pretty quick. Like it was like once you found that kind of that thing, that the way that she speaks and the way that she emphasizes, it was just like you can't lose it. And it was just what worked and what stuck. Yeah.
Pattern your voice. I remember when I took dialect class in college, I loved dialect class. And I remember the first thing that they tried to teach us, it was like, we're going to teach you very specific, I think it was just standard American dialect. And I could not wrap my head around it. I don't know what I was good at like every other thing, but that one I was just, oh my God, it's so specific. And I couldn't do it.
What I think is really interesting, and I remember being, I think maybe because I'm a musician, I think like I'm super auditory. And I remember being really young and recognizing the discrepancies between what the standard American accent was throughout film history. Like even just like the newscaster voice or like these things that we've come to expect, you know, from like tonight at 9, no, on the freeway, blah, blah, blah. Like there's so many different, and we don't even pick it up anymore because it's so normal. But even like, you know, when we're watching like those classics like Casablanca or like anything from that era, like Citizen Kane, like the way that people spoke was so vastly different. And it's just in the intonation and the delivery, not necessarily an accent. And I wanted to be careful to make sure it sounded of the era for sure.
Yeah, totally. Sort of on the flip side, if we're talking about voice and speech, I want to talk about choreography because I gotta say, Gone Kaput, I think dancing with the chair is a lot harder than people. I did a really bad production of Sweet Charity, and I would watch the girls do Big Spender, and then like, you know, we would take a break, and I was just like, surely this is easy. We're just dancing with the chair. And then I would try to do it. I'm like, nope, it's hard. So I wanted to know, because the thing that I noticed with that is you keep such eye contact with us. And so hypnotic. It really, really is. And it's a wordy song. It's a very jokey song, obviously with references to cabaret. I guess I wanted to know, like, I won't say how do you make that look easy, but
Thank you.
Looks hard.
Yeah, well, you know what? It actually was hard. Like I would love to say like, oh, it was a breeze. I don't know how people do it. I think like so often the thing about this show obviously is it's a hybrid between live theater and television or film or anything like that. And I think you know, when you're doing a stage production, you have to use chairs that are easily liftable, stackable, like all these things are practical. So these chairs are really lightweight. Those were the chairs we had. These chairs were like, I don't know, 3 pounds. Like they were so light, which you would think would be, you know, something that would aid us, but it was a massive hindrance because it means that like they're not nailed down. They're not weighted down. Like these are trick chairs, essentially. They were super flimsy. So your balance had to be so perfectly planted and aimed. You had to always be in the middle of the chair, which when you only have one leg up and then you're in like a donkey kick hip flexor and you're doing like this, like you're always playing with the balance. It's, you know, I don't know, I would compare it to like snowboarding. Like it's like you just have to work with an object and have it be like an extension of your body, but then like get off and on and depart it so much. You just have to memorize the shape of the chair. It's like driving a car. It's like, you know, having something that is just becomes a part of you, which is only difficult on this show because we had like 3 or 4 concentrated rehearsals that were, 2 hours each, but like it's not very long. So I was definitely nervous about that. But like you said, I'm happy that you noticed the eye contact, because I was really, really desperate to make sure that, because obviously my hair is so sexual and so arresting, and kaput is very silly. And so I wanted to at least give a little bit of that kind of like Liza connection to the crowd, just to pay a little bit of homage, where it's like you feel like she's singing to only you. And so I'm really glad that translated. I was just lucky. They really made me feel very comfortable, and the girls really, really supported me and had my back. It was like kind of like mini stunt work. It's really fun.
Yeah. I like that you say arresting, but then Schmicago is very silly. That's a very very welcome for me juxtaposition. I love that. It's just I think
Me too.
I also fail on a chair because I have like no core, so it's probably like whoa anytime I would try to do it.
Yeah,
The other song
me too.
I didn't on purpose wear a busted out shirt. It just happened to be the shirt that I was that I
Wait, let me see.
it's just like
Oh my God, you are wearing a busted out
yeah.
shirt. Cute.
I okay, when my husband and I watched that song, first of all, I noticed the height difference between the three of you. And then when I realized that y'all were, chained together, my husband, who used to be a dancer, he said, "Holy crap, that is so hard." So I guess I wanted to know what the most difficult thing about that was, because it looks effortless between the three of you. That's one of my favorite songs of the whole season.
It's a fun one. It's that one was definitely, we had even less rehearsal time on that. We
Oh my
only
God.
ever rehearsed. That one was insane. I genuinely like, I love to always be like, no, like it was so whatever. I won't lie. I was like, one of us is going to break a limb. One of us is going to break a nose. One of us is going to take a stage dive. Like that was a very like smile and like, put the petroleum jelly on the teeth and just like figure it out as you go. Cause it was so, we didn't rehearse together until we were on that stage.
Wow. Okay.
And so yeah, so everybody learned it separately, and I learned it I think maybe twice. And what was really difficult, which looks effortless for sure in the cut, was the tapping and going in and out of the chains. So like you tap and then you step over, like the over, and then da 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 under, and then you're switching at the same time you're going like this. And so the aim of your foot is constantly changing trajectory, and all you have to do, because the chains are taut, all you have to do is accidentally put your toe down on the chain, and the girls in front or behind you topple. Like it was wild. It was like a trust exercise. And it was really like, I don't know, geometry. I don't know. Listen, I went to theater school, and I didn't go to college.
Yeah.
I think this is geometry. But it was like a weird kind of math equation. And again, you just have to kind of like get in the flow of the body extension of the people you're working with. But it was so fun. I mean, what a fun number. And I didn't get a chance to do any numbers with Ariana or Cecily last year. So this was like a real treat. And we've all gotten so much closer. So it was like, I don't know, hanging out with your sisters or something.
That is like a very satisfying thing, like when you do shows with people that you've done show after show with them, and then you realize like I've never done a song with you, or I've never done a scene with you, and when you finally get to do it, it's very satisfying, very theater kid of me to admit that. Yeah.
No, it's like
Yeah.
romantic. It's like, oh
Oh
wow,
yeah.
what a special life.
I love that Jenny and Aaron's character connect. And for the first, when I was starting to watch it, and you have these basically three big shows, like with Cabaret, Hair, and Sweetie, where you're like, how do they connect? And then they do, and when you see it, it's really cool. And it made me feel really happy to see Jenny connecting with like this free love type person. I can't talk, but there's something about that I kind of wish that Sally Bowles found that for herself. So I was wondering, as somebody who's an admirer of the references of the show, what it was kind of like to have that lovely connection and ending for these two characters.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I think, it's like stands with like their favorite musical artists, like cross like shipping them or like cross
Hmm.
pollinating them. Like,
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's like, especially like growing up on the film version of Cabaret, you're like, no, Sally, or
Yeah.
it's like Liza, Sally, if only you could like have, had this life and run away and like, sort of overcome the narrative that you've had for your life
Hmm.
and all the stories and whatever. For sure, it was definitely like very romantic to kind of like sew up that plot line for her. I also just think that Sally, comma, Jenny, they're such a traumatized character
Hmm.
that, as a fan and as the person portraying Jenny, like you hope that she can find someone who, I think that the thing about that relationship that is special and that Cinco did such a wonderful job with, is that they really see each other, like they see
Hmm.
each other through the performative elements of their gig, like they see
Yeah.
each other for the vulnerable, soft little animal that they each are. And so there's
Hmm.
like a really nice affinity and like a safety there. And there is like a healing that can happen through relationship in that way. And so yeah, it was nice. It was like
Yeah.
just satisfying, just kind of beautiful. And like I always I always love to see, like a character go on a full journey because I do feel like as an actor, you do feel like your character becomes kind of real. And if they're almost like your child or like your
Mhm.
best friend or
Yeah.
somebody that and you're like, you just hope for them that they're gonna find solace. And it was definitely like beautiful to do that, especially with Aaron, who's so incredible and who I love so much.
Yeah. I love him. Anytime he pops up in anything, it was like, okay, we have to watch it. It's Aaron Tveit, of course.
Yeah.
Um, I guess just one last question before I let you go is it is sort of a generic question. I just wanted to know what musicals you might be kind of obsessed with right now. Like I was just in New York and I saw a lot of revivals. I realized the only new musical I saw
Mm,
was Kimberly Akimbo, and that destroyed me.
mm.
Wondering if there's anything on the musical front that you are really digging at the moment.
You know, I haven't had a chance to see any new shows. I've been kind of like, burning the candle at every end lately, which I regret because I'm a New Yorker now. So I was like, I'm gonna see shows every weekend,
Yeah.
blah, 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 like talk big game, not happening. Um, but what I will say is having a huge resurgence for me right now. I went to go see opening night of Sweeney,
Hmm.
and that revival is just Tony's. It's like head to toe, a collect. Like if you pulled a string, it would just collapse in a pile of Tonys. Like
Hmm.
it is so
But
so
wow.
fucking good.
Yeah.
Annalie Ashford needs to win everything. Everybody's a genius, and the way the changes that they've made to it, the choreography, the lighting, the
Yeah.
set design, like it's just gorgeous. It's like
Hmm.
seeing your favorite designer come out with a new collection that is just like perfect. Another show that is having a big resurgence for me is I just plugged myself back into the London revival of Cabaret,
Oh yeah.
with Eddie Redmayne.
Mhm.
And the same thing, like it's had a kind of a renaissance, that show, and the way that they have adapted it for that kind of like very live, atmospheric,
Mhm.
gothic, kind of freaky, like it's getting progressively freakier as
Yeah.
it goes on, which is, hard to do. Like how do you even do that with a
Yeah.
show like Cabaret? And it's more relevant than ever again, sadly. So yeah, I mean, those shows are always kind of there for me, with me. My favorite show is always and forever will be The Light in the Piazza.
Oh,
Um,
I saw they just
but
announced
it's
what is
like,
that? They're doing that at oh god, they're doing like 7 performances of that. I just saw that yesterday on Instagram. Ruthie Ann Miles, who's the bigger
oh,
woman,
are they?
Victoria Clark part. Yeah. I just saw it. Yeah. Sorry, not to
Oh,
cut
I
you.
love that.
Yeah.
No, I'm like so unplugged right now. I
Uh
must go see that.
yeah, the when the Sweeney Todd set started to move and I didn't realize it was going to move, I was like, what is going on? And
When
oh
the very first time they do the tableau with the big moon, I was like,
yeah.
like I was like vomiting in my seat. I was like, it's so good. Like, when you watch a show and you're like, there's just nothing I would have done. Like sometimes you watch a show and you're like, oh, I kind of wish that they,
Hmm.
or like, what, I wonder why they didn't keep and this one I was like,
Just
Every single person who touched this show was a genius and on top of their fucking game. It was so good.
yeah.
And then I don't want to give anything away for anybody who hasn't seen it, but the way they end it,
I screamed.
I screamed. I was literally with my agent, who is like my second mother, and I lost my voice because I was inappropriately screaming like I was at a concert. I mean, everybody was because it was opening night, but I literally stood up, and went Tony, like I was
Yeah.
like leapt out of my seat like La Caja Ball birdcage, Tony, Tony, Tony. I
Yeah.
was just mind blown. Annalee Ashford sliding down those stairs. I'm sick.
Who knew that?
Yeah.
Just like I said this as a huge compliment. I was like, that is the silliest, horniest Mrs. Lovett I've ever seen, and I am here for it. And as it goes on, it keeps getting darker, and I was like, oh, it's so twisted. And I know that show forward, backwards, up and down, and I was like, it feels new. So
well, right, and that was the thing too. Is it's like I think anybody who's looking down the barrel of the gun that is Mrs. Lovett is going to be like, what even is there left to reinvent with this character? And she did it. And she's always been like that. Like Annalee Ashford is just a genius, but like that was some next level shit. She had the audience in the palm of her hands. I was on my knees.
That's great. Okay.
Anyway, this interview is now about the Tony campaign for
welcome to the Tony coverage.
Hey guys,
with Dove and Joey.
We're here to talk.
We're gonna thank you so much for your time. Thanks for letting me geek out on you. I just think it's a really fun show, and I think you bring a lot of nuance and a lot of layers to the character. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Joey. Thanks for your time. You're lovely. I hope Ohio treats you well.
Yeah, look me up. Look me up if you ever come back to the concert. Who knows?
100%. Yellow Pages. I'm calling you. Bye, Joey. Thank you so much.
Bye.